Now. Okay, welcome. I got a special guest, Marlene Gayton, multi-million-dollar business owner. Her and her husband have done some amazing things. Um, what was I going to say? Oh, so the podcast is called Massive Action, right? And so, Massive Action basically is it's a symbol that triggers uh, something in us to do better, right? Uh, and you can attach massive action to any situation, right? For example, there might have been a time when y'all had to sleep in y'all's car, right? And y'all made it through that. But that was a massive action event. So whenever an obstacle comes up, you say, hey, you know what? This is a massive action moment. And so it reminds you that you can overcome those obstacles, right? And I want to start off by I mean, I don't know if you want to brag about some of your success real quick before we get started.
Yes, yes. By the way, you're absolutely right. It does take massive action to do anything in this life. A lot of people say, I want to be an entrepreneur. You can't just scroll online or watch Netflix and think something is going to happen. You do have to take massive action. And this is sometimes hard for the perfectionists because they wait for conditions to be perfect. And I think take massive action and just start doing it. But thank you so much for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here with you, Stan, and with your audience. And just really briefly, my story. So I am from Mexico, from Guadalajara. I came to this country when I was 3 years old, grew up in California. I'm the youngest of four. And when you come here as an immigrant, you don't come with much. My mother was a housekeeper. My dad was a cook. And growing up, I used to go with my mom and help her clean houses. And I just remember thinking there's got to be more. I hated watching my mom clean houses. And I told her, Mom, when I grow up, I'm going to retire you. I'm going to be rich and I'm going to take care of you. And I think that's a lot of the American dream, the childhood dream, right? So I got recruited to real estate at 17, did that for 6 years. And real estate was great in the 2000s. But then when the recession happened in '08, one day my mortgage broker introduced me to Patrick Bet-David. And he said, you should get your insurance license. And when I met Patrick, he was 29 years old, making a couple $100,000 a year. So Patrick and my husband are very good friends. He's the one that introduced me to my husband. And it's crazy to think because now he's worth hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars and just announced minority owner of the Yankees today.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome. So okay, so 3 years old, y'all come, to California. Your parents, had to kind of just in survival mode, basically, right? I'm pretty sure some of that mindset, like you might have adapted some of that mindset, right? Because that's all you knew. How did you make that transition to say, hey, you know what? I need to start believing this so that I can accomplish this, because it starts with your belief system.
Mm-hmm.
Like at what age or what kind of transition for you to kind of have your belief system adjusted?
I really give I really give the credit to my parents because for a lot of immigrants, they always remind us we sacrifice a lot to bring you to America. So you better be successful and you better be somebody. And of course, things were different before, but my parents always worked. I think the American mindset is my parents have to be here and put me to bed and they got to spend all this time. My parents had 2 and 3 jobs. I rarely saw them, which is so common for immigrants. And I remember thinking, man, they love me so much because they're working so much so that I can have opportunities and go to school. So I really just wanted to give back to say, hey, you know what? Thank you for bringing me to America. And I'm going to make sure that I make something of myself so that, my parents could be taken care of. So I think, that's where the early drive came from.
Yeah. So how did you, what are some environments that you had to kind of leave behind and adapt to kind of, make sure that came to fruition? Because I'm pretty sure, like, if you're growing up, like, you have these influences in these circles and like people are thinking negative and they're stuck in like this not really successful mindset.
Yes, yes. I got started in business very young. I mean, real estate, I was 17 years old. And
Oh,
so in California, my friends were like, let's go party, let's do this.
yeah,
And I'm like, no, I gotta make money. I gotta close some deals. So I think it's hard when you're very driven because my friends would be like, you don't hang out with us, you don't kick it, you're
yeah.
not like you used to be. But I just had work on my mind and I just had money on my mind. I didn't want my mom cleaning houses. So, I had to outgrow a lot of friends that I grew up with because I didn't grow up in a great neighborhood. Um,
Mm,
and I think that you are a product of your environment and your zip code. And I wanted to be around people that could teach me something. So I
yeah.
always try to find circles of people that were ahead of me, making more money, knew more than me because I wanted to absorb that. So
Mm,
friends, associations, a lot of the fun, a lot of the 20-year-olds are like, YOLO, you only live once. I tell
yeah.
20-year-olds, the young people make money because the earlier you start, you're going to have so much more that you can do in the future, because that money will compound. You need time for
Yeah.
it to compound.
Wow. So that's a good point right there. So you meet a 20-year-old, right? I'm gonna give you a scenario, right? You meet a 20-year-old and they're like, I don't know what to do with my life, right? You tell them you need to make money, right? But they know, but they don't know how, right? So um how would you what are some steps to help someone, that has pride, because a lot of Hispanics have pride. They don't like to ask for help. To be able to say, hey, you know what? How do I? How do I know it's okay to ask for help? Basically, like, what some advice would you give for that? Because especially like a female, like they don't, especially if they're trying to do it by themselves. Maybe they're single moms, like they're like trying to
Yes.
figure this out. So what tips would you
Yes,
give?
yes. I do a lot of marriage seminars and I do a lot of ladies and I do a lot of lady seminars because I don't think there's a lot of positive role models for young ladies today. I
Yeah.
mean, they look up to the Kardashians, and I don't think there's a lot to look from. But I would say find a mentor, find somebody that has the quality of life that you want. And I don't just mean millions in a Ferrari and a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people have that, but their personal life is a mess. Find someone that has a great personal life, that has a great, health life, spiritual life, great marriage, and a successful business, because all of that is going to rub off on you. If you wanted to lose weight and get in shape, I would say, hey, make friends with like, the best in shape people that you can possibly
Yeah.
find because it's going to rub off on you. You want to learn about money, be around people that know about money. You want to be happily married, find couples that are happily married because you're a product of your environment and your
Mhm.
association.
Yeah, it's so true. You mentioned role models, right? And I noticed like lately, you've kind of been more not outspoken, but you've been more like I just say it's boldness. Like you just been more bold, and I see that like you're just more bold with your with what you stand for and what you believe, right? So role models. Do you think that like I was thinking about this like earlier, right? Because like the Beyonce is like thinks about like single women, like independent, right? But that almost like sets them up for failure in a way.
Yes,
Like
yes, you're right. Absolutely, you're right. Yes. So my bread and butter is insurance. I
yeah,
have a national insurance business with my husband, and we have a very successful business. And for a long time, I'm like, no, I'm not going to say anything. I'm not going to, I'm so busy with my business. I have three boys. I have a baby. But you know what? I just decided I'm like, no, I need to start saying something because I think we need more role models in America for the youth, for young people, especially for young women. I think the feminist movement is ruining so many lives, especially young women's lives, because they've been told, that they have to, go out, hustle, make money, but they don't really value family, children. And I'll tell you, I know so many girls that later in life they have a hard time finding somebody because all they were told was go get this job or go find this career, but they don't know how to balance both. And I think they're both very important because I think happy marriages and happy households is going to breed the next generation of our country.
yeah. For someone that's watching, describe the feminine movement. Like describe that to someone that's like doesn't understand what that means.
The feminist movement has told young women that men are the enemy, that they don't need a man, that they can make their own money, that they can do it themselves. And I tell ladies that an alpha man is going to typically be attracted to someone that wants them. This is why you're seeing so many American men dating foreigners. It's typically Asians, Latinas, or Eastern Europeans because they have more traditional family values. I say an alpha man that is a protector and a provider. They want a girl that, is appreciative. And I tell the ladies, when you say these words that you hear on TikTok and on the media and in the lyrics and all the music of, I don't need a man, I can pay my own bills, you will be. Because that guy that can be a great catch and a provider, he's going to marry some other girl because they don't have this American, this Western mindset. And I think that's why if you read this article by Forbes, in the next couple of years, 45% of women ages 25 and 45 will be single in America, single.
Wow.
That's never happened. So a lot of young women, they don't believe in marriage anymore. So these guys are just marrying a lot of foreigners. And I think that that's going to affect our economy and our culture here.
Yeah, yeah, I see. Like, I think now that you mentioned, like, y'all just moved to Houston, and I know California was getting kind of just out of control as far as this. I think the control thing, right? Um,
Yes.
what are your thoughts on the school system? Like, I know
So
you
listen, I'm a little controversial. So I grew up in California my whole life. Most of my business is still in California. I have a lot of offices in California. I moved to Houston a year ago, but honestly, after COVID, California changed the law. I have three boys, and I don't want my boys being asked, "Are you a he, she, they, them?" The value system in America has changed drastically.
yeah.
I personally do not vaccinate any of my boys. None of them have ever been vaccinated in California. There is no choice. So when I had my last baby in California, he's 18 months. The pediatrician said, your health insurance is going to drop you because you're not vaccinating your kids.
Wow.
In California, you don't have a choice. Every a 1-year-old is expected to have 28 vaccines in California. And if you're planning on going to school, there are even private schools, you can't exempt. So here in Texas, they give parents the right to do what is right for their children. Joe
Yeah.
Biden just said in a message that America's children are, the government's children. I'm like, that is crazy because Joe Biden wasn't there when I gave birth to my kids. They don't pay our bills. I think it's American families that are raising our children. So we should have the say in how they should be
Yeah.
raised. I think that these ideologies that they're teaching, that needs to be left to parents to teach at home.
Wow. So I mean, that's a pretty powerful uh, subject, right? Raising kids as entrepreneurs. You know, both you and your husband are very active in the business and building y'all's team, and y'all have events, and y'all have a world-class network. What are some tips on entrepreneurs with that are building their business or have a business to raise their kids that make sure that it's balanced,
I think God really blessed me with, I was raised, so just based on my age, here you're raised to be very feminist. God blessed me with three boys. And I think it was really raising sons that I was really forced to understand and just read so many books on human nature of men. So for the three boys that I'm raising, for me, it's important that they learn what it means to be a masculine man and to respect and admire their fathers. So
Yeah.
it's a lot of admiration for, like we just went on vacation and I just said, did you boys thank your daddy for taking us on vacation? Did you boys thank your daddy for soccer and baseball and this and that? And they know, hey, when we're working hard, they see us speak on stage at conventions and stuff like that. They come. And I tell them, when you grow up, it's going to be your job to have a business and take care and provide for your family.
Yeah.
And we tell them, so who's stronger, men or women? Men. physically they're stronger. I said, so what's your job? They say to protect women, to protect and provide for women. So I want to make sure that we're setting that example, and for them to know that they need to be entrepreneurs because they have to provide for their families in the future as well.
Wow. What y'all think, like when y'all had the three boys, like did you think I mean, it was a challenge, of course, but what made you kind of just say, hey, you know what, I need to understand my role in raising these boys?
Well, yes, that's why I say like God must have had a plan because, honestly, I thought I was going to have a bunch of girls
Yeah.
and God blessed me with three boys. But I realized that whether it's 5-year-olds or a 50-year-old, men's nature is the same. So I have been studying human nature for years. I actually am publishing my first book in August, and this is a marriage and relationship book. So I have been studying men, especially alpha men, because I have a lot of alpha men in my business. So as a female, how can I coexist with alpha men where I'm not emasculating them and they can still lead? And I realized that men want recognition. They want to be acknowledged, and they want to be able to lead. And sometimes I think as women, we don't let them lead because we take control. So I think it's letting them, take control so that way they can lead and do it themselves. So I always tell the wives, there's a book that I always recommend. It's called Wild at Heart. And it's a book, Wild at Heart. And it's a book that describes how God designed men to be wild. And it says how sometimes as mother, we emasculate our sons, because it says for little boys, if they're not fighting or if there's no blood, that's not fun. And for mothers, we're going to say, be careful, don't do this, don't do that. And there's one chapter in particular where it says the father should name the son, not the mother. And here's why. If the mother names the son, we're going to give them a nickname. Luke, my oldest, I call him Lukey.
Yeah.
Elon, I call him Teddy because his middle name is Teddy Bear.
Yeah.
So, we're going to say mi gordito, it's always going to be a pet name. So it says no, because the identity in the name has to be given by the father. So after reading that book, I'm like, I have to do, better so that I don't emasculate my boys and they can be great men.
Wow. That's, I think that alpha male, a lot of guys are very feminine.
Yes.
And okay, describe some feminine characteristics in a man, and then describe some alpha characteristics in a man.
Yes. Yes. But you know what, though? I'm not going to say there are a lot of feminine men, but I also think there's an attack on the family unit. With the divorce rate at 50, with the divorce rate at 50%, when I see a lot of the problems that we have in America, like, the young teenagers looting, the biggest problem we have in America is lack of fathers. That's what we really have. We have lack of fathers. And I think some cultures are more affected than other cultures. But I think a lot of men didn't have a father figure. The school system is 80% female. So say you have a son, 80% of the school system is female. And on top of that, if they're raised by a single mom, when do they have interaction around other men where they learn how to be men? And I say the school system is designed to make little boys fail. This is why 66% of college grads are female and not male, because little boys are being graded on how long they can sit in a desk for 8 hours and how pretty they read. And 300 years ago, they were not doing that. They were hunting with their fathers, learning what it meant to provide, to be a man, right? To be a go-getter. And that's not being taught today.
I've kind of like started to like see like this bigger kind of picture of everything, like kind of like standing back, right? It almost seems like it's a form of like control, right? Because if you make the men less weak, then they don't have the drive. Maybe it probably lowers their testosterone. They don't have that, and so and then they become controllable by and so. But it's to be an alpha male. I consider myself an alpha male. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work because we're so driven and there's a lot of distractions, right? And so you got to make sure that you're focused and that you're you do the right thing when no one's looking. I say that's the most important part. It doesn't matter what you do, but it just matters what you're doing when no one's looking. So
Absolutely.
have some like feminine characteristics, I guess.
Feminine characteristics in a man, this going 50-50, that's very feminine. And it's
Mm,
only happening here in America. And around the world, you go ask Russian guys, is your wife going to pay half the rent? No. And here's what I mean. I know the feminist movement has told girls, we can do it better. We can pay our share. We can pay 50%. But it's very different because when you get married, you're expected to grow a human being, breastfeed, stay up at night, raise toddlers. Women spend 15% of their working years taking care of children and aging parents. I think it is unfair in society to tell a woman you have to pay half the bills and still raise children. It,
yeah.
it goes against our nature. It goes against our biology. And I think it's because, this is also what a lot of men have bought into. This is why I tell my boys, you're going to start a business. Your job is to make money and make sure that your family is properly taken care of. But
Yeah.
it's really hard with a 9 to 5. It's really hard. And
Yeah.
this is why if you grew up in a low income, I tell people get out of that zip code because you become a product of that environment.
Mm,
So you got to get out of that zip code so that you see other people that are making money and you can say it's possible too. So if anybody here has like a 9 to 5 and you're thinking, man, this lady's crazy, I can't relate, I'm barely making ends meet. You need to start, first of all, you need to start reading books. And second of all, you need to find a mentor. And then third, you got to have an idea of I need to start a business, a side hustle so that I can make more money. Because a lot of guys are like, I want a feminine woman to honor me and respect me. She's going to honor you more when you lead the family spiritually,
yeah.
but also financially.
Wow. And I was reading a while back that a feminine woman that tries to play a masculine role, it actually wears them out because
Yes.
they can't do that for a long period of time. So they're like trying to be something they're not, and so in return, it kind of wears them out. Versus a feminine person radiates like love and light, and
Yes.
whenever they tap into that love and light, like their energy is endless because they're their true self. But I think that, like you said, like society has tricked people. I'm gonna say trick because I feel it's a trick. They have tricked people uh, to kind of think that you don't need a woman or you don't need a man and you can do it all by yourself and play both roles. I think it just kind of sets you up for failure in a way. Man,
Yes.
let me ask
Yes.
you. So, um, what are some good books that you would recommend someone that's trying to, start their business? They're living in a bad zip code. Uh, they're down and out. They know that they have a dream. What books would you recommend? Just a couple few. Something that's kind of changed your life.
I think some of like if like you've never read a book that's very foreign, I would of course say like Rich Dad Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich, maybe The Richest Man in Babylon. Those are some of the few books that I think young people can read. But today, honestly, with social media and the youth, the attention span is so small that I think if you're already scrolling, look up motivational videos.
Mm,
Look up videos that inspire you because if you're not used to reading, it's a great introduction because instead of filling your mind with maybe video games, or for a lot of young men, it's porn. And I'll tell you, I think that's one of the biggest pandemic problems that we have is porn for young men because they say the average 11-year-old has seen more beautiful naked women than the greatest king that ever lived 1,000 years ago. And a lot of men lose motivation because before, if you wanted to get that beautiful girl, you had to be somebody to get that girl. I mean, just look
yeah.
at a bird. If a bird wants to mate, a bird has to build a little house, put all the sticks and have food and do the little dance and say, hey, girls, I have my stuff together. Come with me because I can protect and provide for you.
Yeah.
But today, a lot of guys don't have to do that because they're playing video games. They're just scrolling. So if you're already just scrolling, at least find things that are going to fill your mind and at least the imagination, because I think it starts with the imagination. That's why the book Think and Grow Rich. It's not just work and grow rich. It's
Grow Rich.
think. You just have to imagine it.
Wow. So tell us more about your book.
So my book is going to be released this August, and it is a book for couples that are building a business together. I think that's how America was built, family-owned businesses.
Yes.
That's how America was built. And then the 9 to 5 was created, and it's like, wives, you go here, husbands, you go here. Now they're both being taxed, and who the heck is raising the kids? I think if we can, restore balance and more family-owned businesses where both couples are working together and the kids get to be a part and grow the business, I think that's going to bring a lot of, life to the family unit and restore family values, which I think is so crucial and needed here in America. And I think it's also a testament for people to know that it does exist. I think for a lot of the younger people, especially if you grew up with divorced parents, or maybe parents that maybe they didn't know any better, like the parents that bash the other parent, like your mom this or your dad is a good for nothing. Those poor kids are so traumatized and they're thinking, I'm never going to get married because my parents this and that. Or they might think this celebrity and then this guy cheated, and they think that's what it's like. So I do want the audience to know that there is a large population of America of people that are happily married, that have, great family values, that have a great, and that also have a very successful business, because I think that should be promoted more than the Kardashians' 20 years divorce, because that's not even real life. They do that for clout. That's their business.
Yeah. That's actually a business. So that's the family business to generate attention, right?
It's tabloids. They sell tabloids. That is their business. But I think the narrative is being lost in the media, in the music. And I think that a lot of people are thinking, I don't want to be married. But if we adopt this mindset and there is no family institution, it's the breakdown of the whole society. I think children need a mother and they need a father. And if we can teach couples how to work together, how to respect each other, and how to properly communicate. And this started off many years ago. People used to ask, how did you build, such a successful business with your husband? And we started mentoring a lot of couples. So we have couples that we've mentored, many couples that make 6 figures, some make a quarter. And we have couples that we've mentored that today they are millionaires. So it's one thing if you're a millionaire, but can you teach other couples to be millionaires and to have happy marriages? I think if your marriage is happy, your business will be profitable.
Yeah. I know we're kind of crunched on time, but you brought up something that's pretty powerful there. When y'all got together, Steph, what are some of the things that made it work to where now y'all can mentor people? Because that's like, what are like at the beginning when y'all met, right? Y'all had the business going, but like, what are some of the things y'all did to really kind of blend together to where now y'all are able to mentor people? Like what are some of y'all's non-negotiables or like guidelines, or hey, this is what we're
think in the beginning, I say the first 2 years when you're building a business with your spouse, I call it World War III. You step on each other's toes because you don't know how to communicate. And growing up, I didn't know how to relate to an alpha man. And my husband is very alpha, very, very, very alpha. So, when we started our business, I was so used to being an entrepreneur by myself that I was so assertive. So I remember, I'll give you an example. Like, we would have a meeting and he would be talking and I would cut him off and be like, oh, but what about this? And then afterwards he would get so offended. He's like, why do you cut me off in front of people? And I didn't realize that was emasculating until I kept hearing it from so many different men that I'm like, oh my God, that does drive them crazy. So I had to learn how to communicate effectively. And, we had to learn our roles, but also how to respect each other. And I think faith is very important. I mean, when we started our business, we were so broke. I mean, so incredibly broke building a business was just a dream. There was a time, where we had absolutely nothing. But what we did do is we went to church every single Sunday. So no matter how much we wanted to kill each other and no matter how hard the business was, because it was a startup, On Sundays, we would go to church, and it was at least a positive message that I think the soul needed. And I
Yeah.
think that it's needed in society. I tell people that have children, take your kids to church. And maybe you have a bad experience, or you think all Catholics are this or all Catholics are that. But here is my logic, okay? I've been donating to, the missionaries for years, good friends of ours. And
Mhm.
I asked them, why do you teach ministry to children? Why not like battered women or something
Yeah.
else? And he said, souls are one with children. I'm like, what do you mean? When kids are little, this is when you were able to teach them what is right, what is wrong, what
Mm.
is moral, what is a sin. And if you plant these seeds when they are little, even if when they're teenagers or in their 20s, they party, they leave, typically when they have their own children, those seeds that you planted
Mm.
early on will still be there in
Yeah.
building their character. So I think for a lot of couples, you got to have faith. They say men, the beginning of wisdom for men is when they learn to fear God. And I think America needs a lot of that today.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it was great having you on, and I'm pretty sure we can kind of keep talking for hours. Uh, we hope to see you soon. We'll be in at the conference.
Thank you.
How can people get a hold of you to attend some of your workshops and learn more about your business and learn more about y'all's team? They're
You
waiting,
can find
right?
me, yes, you can find me on any social media platform, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. My name is Marlen Gayton. I do have seminars. I teach marriage seminars, and I teach ladies seminars on how to be more feminine so that you can bring out the masculinity in the men around you.
Wow. Okay, we'll definitely stay in contact, and if you need anything, please reach out to me.
Thank
And
you.
I'll
Thank
say,
you.
I'll
And
say
much
hello.
love to your wife and your family.
Yes. All right. Talk to you later. Bye, sis. Bye
Bye.
bye.